through these three seminars on the symbol of life, we've been tracing the development, the evolution, and the unfolding, better word, the teachings of the symbol of life in man's consciousness. At the same time, we've been tracing their evolution from their first incarnation up until now. So I just want to go back and hit some highlights that maybe we haven't talked about before we go on any further. But now this drawing here, I've come over here. This drawing of Atlantis, I'm sure isn't perfect, but Dascalos' description of it was much bigger than what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks Atlantis was some island out here in the Atlantic, and it was. But it all connected back over here to the northern Africa, he said, and southern Europe, all the way over to probably the beginning of the Persian Gulf, yeah, right in that area. And Cyprus, which I can't quite see in here, yeah, there it is. It was a mountaintop on Atlantis. And so the thing sank in different stages, as you know. And slowly, you know, the people migrated over to Lemuria, up through, I'm on the wrong spot, sorry. That's Atlantis, but we want to start with Lemuria. And first, the story is it's first Mu, called Mu. Now this is where they first incarnated. But they were cavemen, they were just like animals. They didn't really think, like, yet. And they couldn't receive help from the masters who are assigned to this planet to help them for many incarnations. And interesting thing, the reason why it was called Mu, and I don't know if it went, Dascalos really doesn't describe that, where it actually was, but it was connected to Lemuria at some point. So it was certainly down in here. And he said the reason they called it Mu was because of the large carnivorous animals, the sounds they made. And so they called it Mu. That sinks, and certainly Western Australia was part of it. So the Aborigines of Australia were really descendants of Lemurians. And so Lemuria ends up over here. Dascalos, you see this little painting up here of that island. This is a painting taken from Dascalos' sketch and his description of the small pear-shaped island. And it sat right on the equator, on the northern part of Lemuria. It was an island. And there's evidence here, right in here, there's geological evidence. If you go down under the sea, there's a thing called, it's the largest swell under the ocean. It's called the Pacific Swell. And it's a huge landmass that's up much higher than the area around it. And that's the remnants of the island that sank. And we know for sure that that was above water because it's got volcanic ash on it. And when a volcano goes up underwater, it creates the lava rock, right? But when it goes up in the air, it also creates ash, tremendous amounts of ash. And so we see that ash in this Pacific Swell here, which proves it had to be above waterline when it happened.
Were they contemporary, Lemuria and Atlantis, or one came before the other?
Lemuria came first, Atlantis came next, so they were contemporary at a certain point in time until Lemuria finally sank, estimated maybe 26,000 years ago. But over here in Bolivia, they had a port city called Tiwanaku.
Say it again? Can you say it again?
Tiwanaku.
Tiwanaku.
Does that still exist?
Is that what?
Does it still exist? No.
Yes, it does.
Oh,
As a
it
matter
does.
of fact, if you go to the next slide. No? That's weather. I'm sorry, I got the slides in the original. Here, slide, yes. And here you see that port of Tiwanaku with a couple of reincarnated Lemurians.
You need a permission.
We're all families. So it's on this island that, as it says in the Bible, the sons of God looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair. And so they took to them as wives, and they had these offspring that were called the giants. They called them giants, but they were really men of great renown. And these guys keep reincarnating. They're like the way showers in our time. They're still with us. A lot of times they call them the Nephilim, and they make them bad entities, but they're not. They're just the offspring of the Son of God and the daughters of men. And by sons of God, well, we're all sons of God, right? Sons and daughters of God. But there's a different group. These are the ones that know they're sons of God. We're sons of God, but we don't know it. But these guys knew it, and they formed in collective groups of hundreds of spirit. And one guy would precipitate out in material form and mate with women, and it started changing the species. It started waking him up, right? So anyway, let's go to the next slide. So the Lemurians would come over to the Tiwanaku. Nope.
No?
One next to it. Yeah, they got out of work. Sorry. So that's the wall of Tiwanaku, and you notice there's big stones, right? So this was a port city, and the evidence of that is there's water erosion on the thing. But it's 26,000 feet altitude. How could it be a port city at 26,000 feet altitude? Well, when Lemuria sank, it pushed up this area of South America, even pushed the Andes up more, but it pushed up this area, and this thing is now at 26,000 feet.
Wow.
And the evidence of this is when they, particularly at Pumapunka, they dug down, Bolivian government was digging down, they dug down 3 feet, and what they find? They find the bodies of human beings and the bones of saltwater fish from the ocean. So how did they get 26,000 feet, unless there was enough people? And it was one day. And you can see at Ollantaytambo, the Inca city, these stones are colossal size. We went there and they're just tossed around, some of them, just tossed around. And they say, oh, the Spanish knocked them down. There's no way the Spanish knocked them down and moved them, like hundreds and hundreds of feet. It was this big thing went down, the water came up, sloshed over, and knocked all these stones down. So the Bolivian government reconstructed it. So they built it back up like this, and they put 12 of these long, tall stones in it. And because they thought it was a calendar, and they thought, well, there's 12 months in the year, right? No. The ancients used a 13-month calendar in 28 days. And it made 364 days, and they had that extra day was either considered a special day or an inauspicious day, so they just didn't do anything on those days. But you'll notice at the site, there's one big stone left out that they never did because they didn't understand, and they didn't put it in. And those stones served to mark the passage of the sun from from winter solstice to summer solstice. And you can, if you see a mathematical or a drawing of how it worked, it was in perfect things. It's just that the people reconstructing it didn't understand. Can you go to the next slide? 5. The turtle. Yeah. And the reason they did this, there it is on the turtle shell. The big, there's 13 plates around the outside, on the inside, the big 13 plates, and then around the outside is 28 little plates. So that's how they got the calendar.
From a turtle shell.
And think about it, we have 13 moons in a year. Women have 13 menstrual cycles. So then somehow it gets lost, of course, and the Romans created a calendar, had a 10-month calendar. But then when Julius Caesar came along, they made it a 12-month calendar. And that calendar became so far off that by 1500s, the Catholics were really confused because their holy days didn't match up to the weeks. So Pope Gregory made a new calendar. He had a monk there called Dennis the Little. He was a little guy, he really was. And he worked it all out, so they had to delete 10 days of the month. And they did it in October, in 1582, something like that. But even more stranger, I think, about this is September, right? Well, Sept means
Seven.
seven, but it's our 9th month. October is our 10th month, but October derives from Latin from octo, which means eight. November is the 11th month, but it comes from the Latin root novem, which means 9. So it's all screwed up. You know, we'd be better off going back to this 13 months. We really would. And, okay, so let's go back to the Atlantis slide, that first one. So with those continents there, it was an easy navigation just to get over to here. And at this time, you still can, but they got to the tributary of the Amazon River, which flows over here and comes out here. So there would have been a short sail over to Atlantis. That's how they got there. And so the migration, it started sinking. Some of them knew, just like in Atlantis, and they left Lemuria to come over to Atlantis, and then Atlantis starts developing. Now at this point, if you go to the next slide, number 5. This one. 6, I'm sorry. When Plato described Atlantis, he described its rings and its modes and its stones and how they got in, and it was these different rings. This is the heart of the capital, I guess you could say. And it ended up in the ocean, so they could do this seafarer trading. And if you go to the next slide, I've got them all off, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is in Africa, northern Africa, right where Dasclous said Atlantis used to be. It's called the Eye of the Sahara. And many, many people think that it's the remnants of what Plato described as that city. And we can go to the next slide, which is even clearer. This is from NASA. And you can see, I've actually measured it off based on what Plato said about how far the waterways were and how big the land masses were. And it fits it very, very well. So I believe they really have found Atlantis by having found it. So the one that talked most about Atlantis was Plato, of course. But he got it from his uncle, who was named Solon. He was the wisest of the 7 sages of Greece. And he had gone to Egypt. And from the priest in Egypt, they told him this story about an island out in the Atlantic that they said was struck by a serpent and sank in a day and night kind of thing. And so he hears this story. And this story is still kept. It has been handed down since that time, and it's kept. I think it's still written on the Temple of Edfu in Egypt now. So they said, he said, when did this happen? When did this island sink? And he said, well, 9,000 years ago. So this was like 600 BC. So if you had 600 BC and then our 2000 now, we get the same dates of that big cataclysm called the Younger Dryas, where there was a big giant flood and it raised the oceans 300 feet when the comet hit the ice packs. So Solon goes back to Greece and he says, well, there must be other records of this, right? So he looks around and he comes across this thing called the Scroll of Ozzy. And Ozzy was a shepherd. And he reports that he found a cavern. He went down and he stayed 2 years with people living under the ground. And he comes back out with this strange language. Now, most people thought he was crazy because it was such a, nobody knew what the language was. And Solon tried to figure out what the language was. Finally realized this must be the language from Atlantis. And so that scroll gets handed down. It just gets handed down to famous people, kings. Some people think it's good, some people don't. It gets handed to a pope at one time where he changes the name to the Shepherd Scroll. Handed down, it's given to, before that, it was given to Da Vinci, who studied it and was fascinated by it. And then some, I think it was the Pope confiscated it from him. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. It ends up in the Vikings' hands. It disappears for a long time. It goes back and forth. Finally, it shows up again, and they put it in the British Museum, the British Library. And the congressman from America named Donnelly goes, and he takes it out, and he never returns it. 2 years later, he writes a book on the lost civilizations of Atlantis based on what Plato said and what was in the scroll. So, it goes on and on, you know, it just, Philip of Spain, yeah, it goes on and on. So, even Benjamin Franklin wrote in his diary that he had seen the scroll. So it's a real thing, it's not some urban myth kind of thing.
Where is it now, Daniel?
Well, but Donnelly borrowed it from the library and wrote his own book, but never returned the thing, so nobody knows where it is now. And it just does that in history. It goes and comes up, goes missing, blah, blah, blah. So the story is that, you know, of course, Atlantis sunk in two main phases. And some, knowing their fate, they took their knowledge and everything to Egypt, and that's how we got this great Egyptian civilization doing things that we can't do today. But they also took it to South America. And the Aztecs refer to the island as Aztlan, something like that. But Mayans talk about it. It's in the history of all these indigenous culture. So some of the people, the most advanced people, Dascalos said, just left the planet. And they exist, they don't even need another planet. They evolved so high, they just exist in space. And he calls them the space people. And they're really the guardian, they call themselves the guardian of Garden Earth. So they watch over, and they try to make sure that we're not going to destroy the planet like they did on Malduk. The other ones, Dascalos said, just died and reincarnated elsewhere. But the ignorant ones, the ones that didn't know what was going on, and we call these sleepers, they just aren't aware of what's really happening. They didn't know what was going on. So they died and reincarnated elsewhere. But let's go to the next slide before I go any further.
Annual, yesterday or the first day, I can't remember.
This is symbol of life.
Painting?
You mentioned that Dascalos had kind of fulfilled his karma. He had already been, had saved a planet.
But, you know, the first is like ours. They're just human beings. You know, maybe they don't look exactly like us. It depends on the planet, what our body shape is. But they just evolved to the point where they became what we call extraterrestrials. They went out. But then after that was over, they were assigned to another whole planet from the very beginning. But he said there's more than one of them. There's 72 of them. They couldn't even help the early incarnation people on Earth because they couldn't be receptive. So they tried to, you know, put into their minds and guide them, but they just couldn't receive it. And it wasn't until this point on Lemuria, on this island, that they came down. One of them came down here and started leading mankind up higher and higher. And then the other 71 did it other places on Earth. So we have these great masters who just reincarnate. They're in the Asian culture, the Hindu culture. They've been everywhere, and they just literally lift man up on their shoulders, taking them forward. Now this is a version of the symbol of life I'm sure you haven't seen.
No.
Do you notice anything different on it?
Yeah,
What do you notice?
10.
I
Center
see
column.
the levels of Hercules on there.
In the center
Yeah,
column.
he didn't draw that.
And the 10th center.
The circle was the three lines, I only see one line from my vantage point.
Yeah, the one I want to draw your attention to is that center number 10, with the triangle pointing upward. Those are the people who live on Earth who are proceeding up this path of light. But the downward triangle points to the subterranean. There's a whole nother humanity that lives in the cavernous places of Earth. Some of these are from, these particular ones are from Atlantis. when the island sank, they sought underground and went down into these cabins. Those are the guys that were met by Ozzy, who went down into the cavern. And, you know, us surface dwellers, we evolved in our own way, and they're down there. These were the really bad guys, the really bad guys. And they're taking long, long incarnations in this dim world to ever come to where we are now and can continue on. But they hope, they subconsciously hope somebody's gonna come and help them, because they, I guess, subconsciously realize they've done a fall.
Do they have a material body?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask too.
What's that?
Do they have a material body like us?
They have solid body shape.
They do? Oh,
And the interesting thing is, time for them goes very fast. That's kind of like the mercy of God. I don't know why that is, but maybe it's just the mercy
do
of
they
God.
live as long as, or longer than we do, or
What's that?
their life spans?
I don't know about that.
And how do they survive underground? They
Yeah,
have different,
I don't know that,
Okay.
and that's what they said they are living underground, you know, I don't know,
And they only reincarnate down there after death?
you know, and they have yet to reach the point where they can continue their evolution on the surface of the earth.
Are they living like to the day now? Are they alive now?
They're alive now.
Do they look like lizards? Are these the ones that look like lizards?
Daniel, what are the line on the middle part?
Those are the steps leading up to these other centers. So when we start to work on the labors of Hercules, this is the main work. This is really what lifts us up this path. But this is the path we return home to God on, right? So as we develop here, we automatically start to rise here, but there are various stages. And these first few are just more of, Daskalos said they're not difficult, they're contemplative. But there are a number of steps all the way up till you reach center number 6, for sure.
When we are working on the labors of Hercules, right? By doing so, we naturally ascending this middle path. So not only it's not like we are not working on the middle path. By doing this work, naturally we ascend. And maybe after proceeding this path, we will work on Jacob's ladder. So after cleansing.
Even though the subterranean life time seems to move fast, it's a very, very slow evolution, because these are the ones that cause all the destruction.
so why aren't they on the moon and being incarcerated there?
I don't know. But there were a number of passageways up to the surface of Earth. There's all these myths of people coming up and stealing babies, you know, these folklore myths and stuff. Daskalos said that wasn't folklore. They would come up and take babies and food and stuff. So the people on the surface of the planet started sealing off the entrances. And a lot of the entrances are sealed by pyramids, not the Great Pyramids. Those connect to the star system. But they sealed them. Even Alexander the Great sealed up the underground world with pyramids.
Are they bigger or smaller than us, or same size?
I have not heard of their size. I kind of get the feeling from the way he described it, they were, you know, a little bit hunkered down. And so, of course, Daskalos and Edgar Cayce both said the Atlanteans had spaceships. They had airships they could travel around on. So there's one more group of Atlanteans who went underground. Now, these were much more evolved. And they went to Antarctica and lived underground. And he said they could create a etheric vitality and make a kind of a green, misty light in these underground caverns. And there's some there. Antarctica is so mysterious, you can't even get there. If you try to get there, you get sent back by the military. And it's supposed to be a neutral zone, but you don't really know what's going on. They talk about they're finding pyramids. I haven't seen the proof of that. Certainly, a lot of the mountains in Antarctica look like snow-covered pyramids. But these guys had flying ships, and they lived underground, and they come out, and a lot of the people that see UFOs, Daskalos said, they think they're from outer space, but they're really from this group. Now, if you go back to World War II, there's a story that the Nazis, right, they went to Antarctica, right, and and they started trying to develop flying ships like the Bell. And they knew about the etheric energy, they call it the Viral or something. And they actually made contact with these guys, as they claimed they did. But their approach to them was one of, oh, we'd like to learn, you know, like they were faking it, you know, they really wanted the power. But we want to learn, so there was some initial contact, and pretty quickly they realized these guys are false. They went for their own power, so they cut off contact with them from that point on. But they live there today. They produce heat on a large scale using this etheric vitality.
Are these underground people somehow related to mermaids, or are mermaids actually a thing?
Are they
Mermaids.
mermaids?
Are they related with mermaids, or are mermaids not a thing
I've
on
never,
the beaches?
I've never heard him talk about mermaids. I know Andres had saw something that sounded pretty convincing, but I'm pretty sure they're not these guys. These guys are way more advanced.
So you're saying these particular beings are helpful beings that are down there, or we don't know?
Yeah, I don't know if they really, what they were so just turned off by the evil that befell Atlantis. They just wanted to get away from everybody. They wanted no contact with anybody else. They just preferred to go and do their own thing and develop in their own way. So now if we can go to this slide 9, I guess.
So are these underground more evolved than we are?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's two kinds of underground you just talked
Yeah,
about,
the
the less
ones-
evolved
Ones in there.
and the ones in Antarctica.
Yeah.
So the ones in Antarctica are more evolved, but the ones that are just
They're way below us. Yeah.
way
Let's go to
below us.
Antarctica.
So they're not like human in our sense, because we need the sun, we need certain things.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I know how it works for the
For the
advanced
other-
ones,
yeah,
they create their own
sure.
heat and light. I don't know how it works for them, but clearly they were there. We got this proof of the Ozzy scroll. Daskalos confirms it from reading the Akashic records. And we have those folklore stories, which sound like crazy myths to us.
Shambhala is not them, or something else.
Symbolic?
Shambhala.
Shambhala. Yeah, those were good guys.
Okay, then maybe they have other places in. on the
Yeah,
road.
I don't know if that's a true story of Shambhala or not. I don't know. But for sure, these guys are not the Shambhalans, because these guys aren't good. So we were talking about, I'm gonna tie all this into what's going on today. Again, this used to be the planet Marduk, and it blew itself up by the people using the creative ether in a destructive way. And that's what it said, these people, the good ones, the better ones, went to the psychical counterpart of their planet and live there today. The evil ones that really caused the destruction were forced just to live in the space, in the etheric counterpart of the space where their planet used to be, until a new planet was created where they could come back and start learning their lessons again. Try it again. That planet's Earth. I got my head there. So these guys were creating, mental weapons of mass destruction. So great that it ends up destroying the planet. And just like in Atlantis, at first their technology and their way progressed nicely and finally, but then it got to a very high level. But then soon people started using it for dark expression, so the whole thing started going down, and even perversion. Using genetics, they created these human abominations, really, for war. They created through genetics, they created humans that were used for war. So after it became really obvious that that planet didn't serve any longer, the higher intelligence just allowed them to destroy it. But you know, these biological enhancements of humans to use them for war, aren't we doing that? Have you heard about the super soldier? Yeah, and transhumanism, right? Trying to put computers in people, but they are making these super soldiers, and they're using genetics, and they're also trying to merge technology with them to create a soldier that can fight, that greater power than any other soldier, right? You can look it up on the internet, super soldiers, transhuman. So, the planet was torn apart, and so now that planet is Earth that they've incarnated on, and this happened a long time ago. So let's go back to Atlantis. So just exactly like on Marduk, Atlantis first developed very prosperously, high technology, everything was going good, but then they started using that for perversions, to fight and kill, and end up with a polarization in Atlantis between two groups. The sons of Baal, which Baal is Moduk, the god they sacrifice children to, and the sons of the Law of One. These were the light bearers, the good people, right? So, Daedalus said it went through many cycles. Some were full of light and good prosperity, and some were dark. So there was this constant war at the end of it. But he said as these waves of Mardukians incarnated in Atlantis, things started getting worse and worse. So they incarnated in waves, right? And it progressively took them into the dark times. They misused the crystals. They misused the power of the sun. They misused the element. They certainly misused the creative ether. So there was a constant fight between these two groups at the end. And so basically what they've come back to Earth and just are doing it again, what they did on their planet. It's no different than what we're seeing. How is it any different than what we're seeing today? There are people driving us into World War III right now. These are the ones. And there are good people trying to stop it, right? So that's a little bit about something about that. But, you know, we're facing the same thing. There's more waves of them coming in now. And we're at a very critical time on Earth, just like Atlantis was at its time. Plato said about Atlantis, they ceased to carry their prosperity with humility. Isn't that what's going on? Especially these power-hungry elite leaders that just more power for what? To fight other people. It's terrible.
Wouldn't you say that aiming for space dominance is like something like this?
For dominance?
Space dominance.
Yeah, space dominance, Earth dominance, yeah, they're trying to dominate.
I asked this because I heard Trump saying like he wanted not just like Earth, but also space dominance. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, even what's the Space Force? You know, there's in all our government, every government, there's some good people and bad people, and the bad people are trying to use it for destructive purposes, for selfish purposes, and the good people are trying to use it for good purposes. The same story. Same story in Marduk, same story in Atlantis, same story going on now. You know, different names, different times and places, but it's the same thing. It's just mankind trying to learn his lesson, right? You can choose the path of light or the path of destruction.
But is the destruction, is it just destined to happen no matter what? Is that part of just a natural cycle?
No, that's the whole point. We're supposed to finally get it, say, oh no to destruction. No more wars. Stop the wars. I mean, the wars are stupid. And who benefits from the wars?
The military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower said many years
by
ago.
the elite, and those guys make the money from the war. So it's very prosperous. And it's been going on every war, every significant war. There's this kind of force trying to drive it in. And these guys that are behind all this, they call them the cabal, the Illuminati, it doesn't really matter, the deep state, they are there, whatever you want to call them. In World War II, what did they do? They funded the Nazis and they funded the Allies. Why? Because whoever won, they were going to be in favor with. And they're doing the same thing now.
burning question for me. So earlier you said, don't ever call a person evil.
Evil.
Can we call these people evil? Or
No,
is it?
you
Okay, no,
I mean,
it's a
you'd
deep
like to,
question
but
for me because they're doing extremely evil things and they're inclined to continue to do that,
yeah,
but they still are God. They have God
they
inside
still
them.
have the ray of the spirit soul
So we
being,
can
but it's
still-
covered in these, like the 7 layers of, 7 veils of the fallen one. They're covering themselves in these veils, all 7.
How about to have the concept like this? We are on the same path, seeking the truth, reaching to the same goal. We all are on the same path, but we have the path. Some people is far ahead of us. When we see someone who very developed, a teacher or helper, invisible help, whoever, far ahead of us, without feeling jealousy. This is how teaching says. And when we find someone like you mentioned, very behind, they are developing. But we might have had this period before. So just see them on the same path, proceeding the same, but they are developing on the same path. And without hating them, without judging them, see them, same fellow on the development. This is how teaching says.
But protect ourselves from them.
Of course, we have to express, have to say, or have to act. But in our heart, don't hate them, judge them, just think them like that.
And by the same token, we do not have to accept their evil behaviors. Yeah,
Daniel, we hear people talk about reptilians.
the what?
Reptilians.
Yeah.
Did Daskalos ever? Are they real? Did Daskalos ever say anything? Like, what should we make of those topics?
There is only 2 kinds of beings, and they all come from the holy monads: archangelic beings and the human beings. So, any extraterrestrial, they're basically from the human idea. There's no third one. The reptilians, but here's the other part. And there's no bad aliens, right? There are no bad aliens, but there are demons who can materialize and present themselves as aliens. And that's what I believe the reptilians to be. They're not a real archetypal idea. There's something created by the dark one.
Like an elemental.
Yeah, it's an elemental, but they can materialize them. People can see them.
Are they human demons?
These are, good point. I think these are from the true demons.
Okay.
It could be both. I'm gonna think about
What
that.
what do you mean by true demons now?
Well, there's a difference between the human and nature demons and the demons that are.
Which are angels.
Human and nature demons are, when we.
No, I'm saying the other ones, you're
They
talking
are
about,
fallen
they're angels that have fallen.
No, there
No.
are no fallen angels.
Okay,
It's beings who choose not to follow the will of God and go through the angelic idea.
Okay.
So they drop, and they are the fallen ones, but and their elementals are the demons.
okay.
Those are the true demons. And the ones we create when we hate somebody or hate something are the human and nature demons.
It's really hard for us at this time in the world, and I truly believe what you said, we're in for some kind of awakening or something. But I also, as a citizen of the world, a citizen of America, I feel like I have some responsibility. And one of those responsibilities, and I don't wanna get it, is to vote. And how to discern
Yeah,
one for them. And that, to me, that is super, super difficult. Cause I have a hard time understanding or believing almost anything that is presented to us anymore. You know, and so, because you can get anybody, it's in advertising, you know, every manufacturer of something can't be the best.
yeah.
And so it's really hard to try to do our little part. So I guess that's why we just need to keep our heart open, love God, love others, live today the best we can to serve others, try to use reasonable thought.
Yeah,
Right? And
that's
all
our
we,
way through this.
and that's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
Yes, commenting that
Makes me feel better.
very briefly, I think in that sense, it's neither one or the other. Because if you think about it, voting, it's the perfect strategy to take away the focus on ourselves and on what we can do as society. So it's a power out. And then if we think about like, oh, I have a choice, then we feel freedom, right? Give the children a choice. So from my point of view, at least in these times, it could be that both sides are coming from the same boss. So which means any way. Sorry?
Which means we're screwed.
No. Actually, if it weren't that we are in the divine plan and that God's power is just so much bigger than what we actually really realize, we would be screwed for sure. You know?
Yeah, I understand, and I think that's a good point, but my inner soul, I'm comfortable. Cause I know the tasks that come to me, good or bad or hardship, I endure for a lesson, do the best I can and trust God.
Yeah, I mean, the instructions are so simple.
Yes.
Love God and love your
Others.
neighbor, your other human beings, not less than yourself.
Yeah.
How can it be more simple?
It can. But a lot of people have a hard time understanding it.
Sure. Honey?
Is black magic being used in a lot of this media and like directed at us? Like,
In the media?
well, just kind of all over. Like I remember like walking through the San Francisco airport and there's like this upside down pentacle
Oh, yeah,
like
absolutely.
pointing at me and,
Absolutely.
you know,
Or the Denver airport. Have you seen that one?
no.
Where's that?
Denver, Colorado?
No, I know the airport, I go there often, where's this symbol?
It's those paintings. It's those paintings with the people with the gas mask and, you look at them closely. You Google it on the internet, don't give you a rap about it. Yeah, Vaya.
If you are stressed and you have all this information too much and oh my God, what are we going to do, so many bad acting from people, I remember three things that I was saying. Nothing matters much, most things don't matter at all. One thing is that. Second, time is an illusion.
Yep.
Okay.
That's,
And the third thing is, eternity can wait for everybody.
yeah.
But I'm in a hurry.
That's
Well, all the way through these seminars, we've been dropping some breadcrumbs about the deceit of everybody, what's being played upon us. And I want to drop one more today, and I won't drop any more after this. Can you go to the next slide? The first weather map. Yeah. Now this is a weather map from Germany, and the top one is from 5 years before the bottom one. And do you notice anything different about the two maps? These are degrees in Celsius.
Is it the same locality? That
It's
they're-
exact same locality, just 5 years
One
apart.
is-
The Earth
On the
looks
same
different.
day, on the same day.
The Earth is shaped totally different.
One is green, one is red.
Yeah. Okay, one's green and one is red, right? The green one has the higher temperatures.
Yeah, it does.
So they're gaslighting us.
Yeah.
They're painting the maps as if we're, oh, this is horrible. They talked about global warming, right? Global warming's coming, we gotta stop using gasoline cars, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, they're just changing the map. Last year they started saying, oh, it's gonna be global boiling, right? Oh, Norway is the coldest ever, and people in Norway send all these videos in it, the warmest ever. They sent all these videos in, showing that it was just as cold as it always has been. Now, if you go to the next map, to the left of that one. Isn't it? No.
No, that's Lemuria.
No, that's it, I'm sorry. This one down here. Now, this is a weather map from back past 450 million years ago. These are the high temperatures, these are the low temperature. High, you know, this has always been doing this, right? High, really high, going down, going to really high, going, and here we are now. We're in a low point, but they're telling us we're destroying the planet.
Who
Back here at the high points, there were no cars, there were no humans.
who measured the temperature?
What's that?
Who measured the temperature in
Who
that time?
measured it?
This is the, from,
Ice
Ice
cores?
cores?
it was a
CNN.
scientific, what is it called, global data thing, yeah. It's some sort of people who measure the temperatures in the past. But they measure it by what they find in the ice and the rocks and stuff. Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but this is a normal one, and many people have this one. Many different scientific groups who do this kind of study. But this is the lowest point in a long time. And there is no cars making CO2 here. So we're being gaslit. Do you know what gaslit is?
Yeah.
We're being gaslit.
I don't understand that
And
word.
why?
I don't understand that word, gaslit.
Gaslit, there was a movie.
Lied.
Gaslight?
Lied. We are being lied like bad time.
Brainwash.
Exactly.
There's an aspect of that term though that makes you feel that you're crazy if you don't.
Yeah, it makes you feel
Right.
crazy, right? If you say something different, if you do say something different to the official narrative, they're going to make you feel crazy. They'll cut you off of Facebook, they'll cut you off of anything, that you go against the narrative. And I only say that because the whole purpose of the teachings is to wake up. But we have to wake up to the inner stuff, inner world, we have to wake up to the outer world, because we're citizens of two worlds. So basically, do your own research. Don't just believe what everybody tells you. It's just like said, like the other day, Einstein quote: "Blind obedience to authority is the greatest obstacle to truth." So, all this is coming to a head now, and pretty soon there's going to be a greater worldwide awakening to what's really been going on. And right now it's not visible to most people. Soon it will be visible to more people. So the point is, be alert, not afraid. That's what I want to say. And before I close, I want to read something from Dassler. January 14th, 1991. I'm telling you, we are filling the world with good elementals. There's a fight between good elementals and bad elementals on this planet. For the time being, the bad elementals are dominating. So the world needs prayers, strong prayer, creating good elemental. And what's the aim of prayer if not to create a good elemental? Helping elemental. Now these moments are difficult, very, very difficult. All the intelligence, even the archangelic intelligence and all the invisible helpers, everyone is working so hard that the world will not start a war. Because I'm telling you, I know this. They visit this place and they see what's happening. The result will be terrible. You will see things that you never expected or ever existed in war before. So now let us pray, all of us, with our heart, that reason may prevail. So let's just close our eyes for 3 minutes. Make a strong prayer that good elemental, and cast it out into the world, that reason will prevail and will prevent this war he's talking about. You can even just imagine a misty shroud of pink light all around the planet, in every country, in every person, in every country. Feel love for the people who are caught in this predicament on the planet. Our future is our making. And right now, our future hangs in the balance. It could go two different ways. Pray for love to return to the hearts of men and women, and light, as reason, return to their minds, and that their material bodies be safe. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Daniel.
I mean, it's serious.
It's very
But
serious.
it's going to come out how we choose as a whole planetary race. And some are choosing really bad futures. So we can't be that. We have to see it come out good. And I believe it will. I honestly believe it will.
I do too.
So,
I think in that sense, thinking that nothing matters much and most things don't matter, it's one way of relieving the pressure and relieving the stress, but also coming to the understanding on this is serious work, because he said that as well many times, this research of truth and this service or our own decisions are serious work, and we have a saying, you know, and we have a part, a ripple effect. So just not, it's easier sometimes to think like, you know, eternity is gonna wait forever for everyone. And I mean, it will maybe, you know, of course, but we do have a book to write or what to say.
Which is writing from purpose and not from pressure.
True.
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I propose something to everybody? Because I think everybody, you are doing a meditation every day. Then after you do the meditation, especially when you do the three sun meditation, you can create this bubble of light, of blue light, of peace, the red line, to the love around the globe, and the wisdom on the
Very young.
globe, yeah. And like this to help in this way
Yeah,
the planet.
we should finish every day our meditation with
Yeah.
that. Would be great.
Yeah,
And
this will be the great elemental what will be created and will be maintaining
Yes,
in the
definitely. Let's do that. Anytime you're doing the three suns, let's end with what Mihai is.
Great idea. It's great idea.
I have to go grab the lunches, so please continue.
Okay. Are you ready?
I will do so.
Meditation?
Yes.
You have to teach us how to whistle like that.
That's for the inner circle.
Yeah, as Daniel mentioned, many things are going on. And from now on, the prayer is really important and works best for the coming era. Now, the Bios mentioned, and also that Andres mentioned, nothing matter much. Most of the things don't matter at all. This word is not actually cunning. We should not use this word as the cunning way to avoid to see our own, you know, when someone does something and oh, nothing matter much. It's not like that. The meaning of this word is once we go beyond of the world of existence, good and evil, the battle, all kind of battles, then we can have the perspective to see, as I mentioned yesterday, from the perspective of observation. We can see all things as it is, good and evil. No, it doesn't matter highly advanced one or vegetarian or whatever. Many things are going on. This is the world of creation. Once we know it, we can say nothing matter much. Most of the things don't matter at all. But we create strong prayer to something which we really want to manifest using divine will through our personal willpower as our free will. So this labor, please look at this. This labor, oh, he mentioned about the underground things, the entities underground. Actually, invisible helpers go down and help those people, those type of people. Not only, for us, they are helping. This work is more like relating to invisible helpers. So this work is very advanced.
It's more, so I didn't hear the first part of the sentence, it's more like an invitation, did you say?
Invisible helpers.
No, before that you said, okay, it's okay. I didn't.
Okay, relating to invisible helpers. This work is relating to invisible helpers.
Related.
Related, oh, okay.
And so it's more like a 10th labor. We finish what we need to do on this planet Earth. But the 11th and 12th are very advanced. So we should focus on universes more than that. And original source life to coordinate our personal will with divine will. This is something very high. So we will contemplate on the essence of that. Okay? So please go beyond evil and goodness. In the meditation, I will explain that the golden apple, this symbolizes the planets, plural, planet, all planets. And I couldn't prepare the tree, but this is a tree. The tree means a symbol of life, okay? Archetype of all creation. And the dragon, in the story, it has 100 heads, but the 100 head also symbolizes the planet, the spheres and the universes. But look, please focus on this dragon. Dragon symbolizes the primal force to create all creation. So original, very original creative force. And we can call it the Kundalini. So creative force for the whole creation. This is what dragon symbolizes. Same meaning with snake, I will explain in the meditation. And in the story, there are 4 nymphs to watch over garden of Hesperides. In the teaching, it doesn't say nymphs, so ask your own guardian angels, guidance, what it means. But in me, it means archangels of elements. So in general, it's called four nymphs. Sometimes it's called 3 nymphs, and sometimes it's called 7 nymphs. But for me, it's all relating to the archangels of elements. So please contemplate on it by your own. Yep. And shall we start? Please close your eyes. Now it is time for contemplation. Peacefully reviewing this whole story of part 1 from the perspective of your real self, Hercules. Let's contemplate on the teaching behind it. The sacred garden of Hesperides symbolizes the dark chaos space in the universes. The golden apples in the garden symbolize planets, the solar systems, stars, all heavenly bodies in the universes. Nymphs in Hesperides symbolizes the rulers of these heavenly bodies. Like apples are hanging on the tree, macrocosmically, mesocosmically, all heavenly bodies are created and maintained harmoniously according to the law of symbol of life. Just like the human body, microcosmically. A dragon coiling up under the apple tree symbolizes the law of the primal motion in space, governing all force and energy, and integrating all universes as one. The dragon means same with a snake. In the universes, all planets are moving around their own axis. All satellites are moving around their planet. All planets are moving around their sun. All solar systems are moving around the core of their galaxy. And all galaxies are moving around their central sun. In other words, the central sun is holding all galaxies at a certain distance according to their size. All galaxies are holding their solar systems in their systems. All suns are holding their planets in their systems, and all planets are holding their satellites and all inhabitants in their systems. An object is moving around another object with mathematical precision, creating a beautiful orbit without disturbing each other nor flying away. and the orbit looks like a circular movement, but it's actually not a circular, but a spiral movement, like a coiling snake. Smaller ones move around the big ones, and the big ones move around even bigger ones, creating a spiral movement in the universes. Everything is moving in the universes, and all movements are perfectly controlled by this primal force. The uppers are the planets, and the snake is the force. But what are they? Where are they from? They are all mind in different vibration. Everything as a phenomenon of life is mind. In other words, everything is mind except God. In the dark chaos space in the universes, God is in self-sufficiency, in the state of motion without anything moving. But at the same time, the will of God emanates as mind, emanates mind as will of pleasure. The ethereal energy and force are expressed in all levels as motion and movement first, and all phenomena of life are created according to the divine laws, with total wisdom and almightiness. The material matter is the lowest vibration of the mind. It is under the control of the law of cohesion and attraction. This force combines things in one whole. That's why every material object can keep its shape to exist. The opposing force of the repulsion is also working to balance. All movement in the material world are following this law, and nothing escapes from it. God's will is prevailed everywhere, even at the lowest level in the material world, as a movement with total wisdom and almightiness. Macrocosm, mesocosm, and the microcosm are created in the same way. The God's will is holding the whole existence of the universes, galaxies, planets, your bodies, even tiny little atoms from the central point of each existence. Without this primal force, nothing can exist, even for a moment. Now, compared to the God's will, which is the creation in the divine plan, how do you analyze the will of your present day personality? Isn't it just expressing obstinacy of your egotism? Just investigate the gap between your will and God's will. Align your present day personality's will with the will of your real self by killing your different types of egoism as inevitable work for your self-realization. On the way to the garden of Hesperides, you encounter many different monsters. They symbolize a different kind of egoism in your present-day personality to hinder your real self unfolds. That is a force of earth element, Shamael, the force of temptation and attachment for mundane, materialistic things, increases your egoism and attack you as a gravitational opposing force. Those monsters are invincible when they are touching their feet on the ground. Since they are from the earth element, they can charge themselves with energy from the earth. But they are also pre-programmed opposing force under the total wisdom. So you, as Hercules, need to overcome this adversity, the force of Shamael, unfolding more your God's will. At last, to reach the Hesperides, Hercules has to pass from the place where Atlas is holding the world. Atlas symbolizes the pan-universal law holding the planet Earth. You have to succeed to carry the planet Earth on your shoulders, which means you become the master of the laws of matter and electromagnetic power of this planet. Once you master them, you can claim the apples of Hesperides, which means you are ready to go beyond the material world and master other two worlds, the psychical and the noetical world. Once you master them, then you can go visit other planets. You receive the planetary initiation. You master the planet Earth and can go to the other planets at will. Advanced teachers have this power. They visit other planets in our solar system and later in other solar systems by exosmosis. They express their will as God's will and with the help of other planets and participate in the divine creation. There are also teachers visiting from other planets to help this planet Earth and other planets. So the golden apples don't belong to the material world of this planet Earth. That's why King Eurystheus gave them back to you, Hercules. Even the goddess of wisdom, Athena, knows where they should be. That's why they will return to the dark chaos space in the universes. This is a very advanced work as the spirit soul ego self. So when you work on that, archangels and your guardian angel will guide you to go further. Affiliate with archangels and receive direct guidance from them. Now you have completed 11th labor. Slowly feel your material body and come back to your environment again. I have a couple of things to say. Of course, you know our 7 promises, right? Number 6, do you remember? I promise to myself, meditate and contemplate daily, absolute being with the objective of total coordination of my thought, desires, and words. Thought, desire, and thought, desire, and words, and actions with divine will. This is all about this. Everything is mind except God, life itself. So, but will of God, will of us, we need to coordinate our will with divine will. Someone asked me yesterday, what is our final goal? Of course, the final goal is reaching theosis, but so far, our nearest goal is the self-realization as the permanent personality self, right? But before that, in our prayer, Aramaic, Abunda Dashmaya, Nekka Dashmak, Tete Malukutta, Tete Malukutta, Nefue Sebiana, Ekana de Bashmaya, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? Do you know what we are reciting? We pray to the universes, to God, to us, God, to bring down heaven on earth through us. Through us. This is the meaning of it. So we need to coordinate our way of living, our will, all kind of will, align with the divine will. And then we can help invisible helpers. Once we reach the self-realization, we can work for this planet Earth and also eventually other planets once we master psychical world and noetical world. When to go to other planets, we have to master noetical world. You can't